It's our 4th day in Paris, and we're off to Versailles. We start our day again at our neighborhood bakery, with a quiche and some fresh bread with ham and cheese. We missed the train we were planning on taking, so we had to wait an additional 30 minutes for the next one, which got us to Versailles at 9:15. But by the time we got to the Place des Armes Plaza, there was a long line. After standing in the cold rain for over an hour, our destination was in sight. After going through security and getting our radios for our audio tour, we finally were on our way. Our audio tours didn't work too well, and I believe we started in the king's apartment. Here we got to peek inside the chapel. This is the upper floor of the chapel again. Outside of all the windows there were great views of the gardens, and with all the rain, we were glad we were inside. This is the famous Hall of Mirrors, which has been copied in so many other palaces. As planned, we left Versailles about 12:30, braving the rain to hit the Sunday market. This stand called Wow Galette caught our eye. We had a very good chicken galette with tabbouleh and sour cream. During our shopping, we bought some soft Toroni, some salted Marcona almonds, and I couldn't pass up a fancy chocolate eclair. We're spending the afternoon in the gardens, and luckily the rain has let up. Today being a weekend, they have what they call the musical gardens, where music is played over loudspeakers throughout the grounds. Most of the fountains won't be turned on again until this afternoon, so we spend the time heading toward the area called the Grand Tranion. This piece of modern art has been nicknamed the Queen's Vagina, and was hit by graffiti a few weeks before we arrived. Our walk is taking us toward Marie Antoinette's estate, and our first stop is Petit Tranion. This is a smaller home where she felt she could escape the high etiquette of the main palace. Within her retreat, she wanted to be able to enjoy the pleasures of countryside living for herself and her children, so she built the Queen's Hamlet. The buildings were inspired by the painter Hubbard Robert, and were built to depict a small Norman-style village. It initially consisted of 12 cottages, surrounded by vegetable and flower gardens. Only 4 of the buildings were occupied by peasants who ran the farm. The rest were either guest houses, billiard rooms, ballrooms, and even what they called a clean dairy for refreshments. We're running short of time, so we take a tram back to the main gardens. The fountains are only running between 2:30 and 5 today, and we still have a lot to see. This is the Fountain of Apollo's Chariot. This whirlpool is another piece of modern art, entitled Dissension. This series of fountains is called the Colonnade, and at its center is a statue called Proserpina Ravished by Pluto. This is the Mirror Fountain, in which the water dances to the music. This is the Latona Fountain. It had gone through an extensive restoration and just opened this year. Because of that, I was surprised to see that much of the fountain wasn't in operation. The fountain is based on the legend of Latona, who was the mother of Apollo and Diana and the mistress of Jupiter. The legend says that she arrived at a pool, and the peasants there prevented her from drinking. And in her fury, she cursed them and turned them all into frogs. This is the Dragon Fountain. We weren't sure whether they turned it off early today, or whether it was just not running. Either way, it was interesting just to look at. We were also disappointed the Neptune Fountain wasn't running. The schedule said that at 5:20 there'd be a special display. We waited around, but nothing happened. We're done with Versailles, and we head on back to Paris. On our way back to the hotel, we stopped at a restaurant for dinner. The food was okay, but nothing spectacular. And remembering something our food guide said, that in Paris up to 80% of all restaurants don't cook their own food anymore, particularly if you see pictures of the food posted around the restaurant. The next morning we were up and out of our hotel by 8 o'clock, but when we got to our local bakery, we found out it was closed, being a Monday. But Marianne had read about another bakery down the street called Eric Kaiser, known for their pound of chocolate. So we grabbed a couple on the way to the metro. Today we're off to the Louvre. Our plans were to follow a self-guided tour that we had on our phones. But once we got there, we couldn't even find out where to start. So we ended up renting an audio guide. It was some sort of a 3D Nintendo Game Boy type thing. It was very cumbersome and difficult to use, and either gave us way too much information or the GPS wouldn't even know where we were. We started in the basement with ancient Egypt, and worked our way up through Greek and Roman statuary. This is the crazy crowds waiting to see a glimpse of the Mona Lisa. And as we round a corner into a stairwell, we are greeted by winged victory. This is the Gallery of Apollo, decorated with 41 paintings and 118 sculptures. These next rooms are Napoleon III's apartments, starting off with this drawing room. All these rooms are primarily used for entertaining and were built in the mid-1800s. Our last stop in the Louvre takes us through these covered courtyards, called the Sculpture Gardens. After leaving the Louvre about 2:30, we needed to sit down and take a break. So we sat down in front of the Arc de Triomphe de Carousel, where we finished up some snacks of almonds and cheese that we bought at the market outside of Versailles. Somewhat revigorated, our plans are to walk down the Jardin Tuileries. The skies were starting to turn ominous, and we got as far as the Place de Concorde before the downpour began. We took cover behind a hot dog stand, crowded in with about a dozen other people, waiting for the storm to pass. It took over a half an hour for the skies to clear, still giving us enough time to reach our next destination, one of Paris's old covered passageways. But being a Monday, the stores were closed. So we head on back to the hotel, stopping off for a kebab sandwich. That evening we headed back toward the Pigalle area and checked out the Erotic Art Museum, before having dinner at a restaurant called Le Latin. Today is our anniversary, and we started off with a visit to the Market of the Red Children, where we had lunch at the Moroccan Trader that was recommended on Anthony Bourdais' travel show. While standing in line, a woman told us about how the marketplace got its name, because all the orphans in the area were provided with red coats. She also told us that we should visit one of her favorite parks, which is right down the street. Our next destination is several metro stops away, the Crêperie Les Petites Jocelyn. But when we finally got there, they had just closed for the afternoon. So still wanting a crepe, we ended up at another shop just down the street. As crepes go, we had a better one for €1 from a street vendor. We did buy some delicious gelato on our 20-minute walk to Luxembourg Park. Here they're playing a game called pétanque. The goal is to throw your hollow metal balls as close to the small wooden one, called le cochonnet, or the piglet. This building in this wonderful park is the Luxembourg Palace, now the seat of the Senate. This is the Pantheon, originally built as the Church of Saint Guinevere, the patron saint of Paris, but never consecrated. A quick walk past the university brings us back to our hotel. For our anniversary dinner, we had reservations at Sacre Fleur. When we exited the metro, it didn't seem like we were in the best part of town, so we quickly got to the restaurant. We each had escargot for appetizers, and Marianne had a pork fillet with mushroom sauce, while I had duck breast with black currants. After dinner, we headed toward our river cruise through the City of Lights.
On your left, you of course all recognize the uncontested shining star of Paris. The Eiffel Tower is 1,000 feet tall and weighs 10,000 tons.
Soon after our cruise got on its way, the rain started pouring down. As we said goodbye to Paris, we looked forward to getting to our warm and dry hotel. Tomorrow we leave for the Loire Valley and its beautiful chateaus.